What's up, guys? My name is James Blissett, professional gambler and founder of Lucrative MMA, which is my handicapping service where I help people make money from betting on MMA. And boy, have we been making money over the last 4 years since I started this service. But this game is nothing to do with what have you done in the past, and it's all to do with what are you going to do in the future. It's a ruthless game. You could be on a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year win streak in gambling, and then you could lose your first year ever and it's your 11th year and you could blow your bankroll. It's a crazy game. And so we're not going to speak about the past in this video. We're going to speak about the future and a potential fighter or fighter who is potentially the future of the division. We're going to speak about Erin Blanchfield versus Jessica Andrade. It's a great fight, a great matchup here. It's actually an unexpected matchup because Erin Blanchfield was supposed to be fighting Taila Santos, who arguably should be the champion right now. She had a very close fight against Valentina Shevchenko last time out. For some reason, Taila Santos had to pull out of this matchup, and now Jessica Andrade steps in, like she does quite often, on short notice to face Erin Blanchfield. It's also an exciting matchup. In fact, it might even be more of an exciting matchup, just because Jessica Andrade has a potent finishing threat, which Taila Santos doesn't really carry. But all in all, I'm super excited for this fight. So we're going to break it down in full. We'll speak about the stylistic matchup, and then we'll speak about the betting lines. If there's any inaccurate lines, if we can make any money on any of the bets that are offered to us at the moment by the bookies. So I'm going to start with Jessica Andrade first, because this girl's really interesting, man. She's probably a lock to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame if she hasn't already. She's an absolutely spectacular fighter, and not so much with her skill set. You know, if you broke down her specific skill set, her Muay Thai, her boxing, her wrestling, her jiu-jitsu, you wouldn't really come to the conclusion, if you broke them down as separate arts, that she is a spectacular fighter. But when you see her fight in the cage, when you see her put it all together, and she includes her physicality in the way she fights, she is a spectacular fighter. She walks forward like a marauder. In every single fight that she's ever had in the UFC, I've seen her walk forward, throw heavy hands. She's so strong in the clinch. She can take you down at any point, and her punch power is probably the number one punch power in the division across all weight classes in the women's divisions. She's knocked out many girls. She's knocked out girls with one punch. There's not many girls out there on the roster that have one punch knockouts, but Jessica Andrade does that. Jessica Andrade actually, she's a UFC veteran. She's fought everyone. She started off at bantamweight. You know, I remember back in the day, she used to fight at bantamweight. She fought the who's who at bantamweight, but then she dropped down. She dropped down to strawweight, and that was because she lost against Rocky Pennington, right? She had a rematch with Rocky Pennington. She won the first match via split decision, and then she won a rematch. She fought a rematch against that, and she lost via submission in the second round. And in that fight, she seemed to be out-muscled, right? Out-hustled, out-muscled, out-powered. And I think that was a wake-up call for Jessica Andrade. She realized, okay, I've got a little bit of extra fat on me here. I'm competing with these girls at 135 on physicality, but imagine if I drop weight. You know, imagine if I cut 10 or 20 pounds. I could probably dominate with my physicality down at strawweight or flyweight. And that's exactly what she did. She cut down to strawweight, so 20-pound difference from bantamweight, and she started dominating there. And she went on an amazing run, and she ended up winning the strawweight belt against Rose Namajunas. She had that brutal knockout. I think it was in the second round. She pile-drived her into the mat and won via knockout. It was one of the worst knockouts we've seen in women's MMA history. She basically pile-drived her onto her neck, cracked her neck. She's a great fighter, man. Then after that, you know, she lost the belt against Weili Zhang. She had a rematch with Rose, lost that, and she's kind of been floating in and out of division. She went up to flyweight, fought Valentina Shevchenko. Then she came down to strawweight again, fought Amanda Lemos, and this fight is at flyweight. So she's bouncing in the upper divisions. I feel like she probably should just stick to strawweight because she can make it. She makes it healthily, and she's obviously got a massive advantage there. But this is flyweight. She's going to do what she does the same, you know, in this matchup. She's going to do nothing differently. She's going to walk forward, throw heavy hands, try and knock out Erin Blanchfield. And if that doesn't work, she's going to try and take her down and just grind her out and pummel her from the ground, right? Erin Blanchfield, on the other hand, is a completely different fighter than Jessica Andrade. She is physical in there, but she doesn't have the raw physicality or strength that Jessica does. The way she is physical is when she's on top. Not even so much in her takedowns, but more in her jiu-jitsu. She has very physical jiu-jitsu. She doesn't really leave any space, any gap in between her and her opponent when they're on the mat. She has very, very slick submissions, very, very slick transitions into the submissions and into different positions on the ground. And she kind of relies on the fight being on the ground to win the fight. She's not going to win a striking fight against many of the top women in the division because she's just not a great striker. Her striking is good enough, and it's definitely coming on. And her striking's good enough to set up her takedowns, set up her trips, set up her jiu-jitsu, but it's not going to win her the belt, and that is her aspirations, to win the belt. She's only 23 years old, so she's very, very young, compared to Jessica Andrade, who's 31 years old. So at 23 years old, you're still growing. You're still learning. The skill acquisition is still there for you. You're not just rounding out your skill set. You're actually learning new things consistently, right? But Erin Blanchfield has been training since she was 8 years old. So although she's young at 23 for the game, she hasn't had any lack of training. She's been training for many, many years. I mean, she's going on a 15-year veteran in mixed martial arts training at this point. She's a great fighter, man. It's a really, really interesting matchup. It's a classic striker versus grappler matchup. And how I see both fighters stylistically matching up and how I see the fight playing out when they get in the cage is Jessica Andrade is going to walk forward and try and knock Erin Blanchfield out, right? I've seen Erin Blanchfield take many shots in the past from opponents on the feet. She doesn't have good striking defense, and she doesn't really have good striking offense, as I've mentioned. In a JJ Aldridge fight, she was catching jabs on the chin for the whole fight. JJ Aldridge countered her a few times with hooks. And even in the Miranda Maverick fight, man, Maverick was landing heavily with the body kicks anytime the fight was on the feet, which it wasn't that often, but when it was, Maverick was landing with good body kicks. So it's clear that she can be touched up, right? Especially with the hands if you have an opponent which is long, opponent who has, a reach advantage, as JJ Aldridge did, a height advantage. In this spot, it's not going to be like that, right? Because Jessica Andrade, she doesn't have a height advantage on Erin Blanchfield. I don't know exactly how tall Jessica Andrade is. I'll just have a look. So Jessica Andrade, 5'1" with a 62-inch reach advantage, right? So she's very, very short for the weight class. It's crazy she was fighting up a bantamweight once upon a time. Erin Blanchfield is 5'4" with a 68-inch reach. So it's going to be good for Erin Blanchfield in the fact that she's not going to be at a disadvantage in the height. So I think what we saw in the JJ Aldridge fight where she was catching punches on the chin, it's not going to be exactly the same in this fight. It really comes down to whether Erin Blanchfield can get the takedowns, though. If she can get the takedowns, she's probably going to win the fight. We haven't really seen any fighters get takedowns over Jessica Andrade, apart from Valentina Shevchenko and Rocky Pennington up at 135 pounds, right? Now, the Rocky Pennington fight, Rocky did kind of dominate her in the physicality, but she was also very competitive in that fight, right? The only fight she wasn't competitive in that she got completely ragdolled was the Valentina Shevchenko fight. Now, we know Valentina Shevchenko is an amazing fighter. She's a well-rounded fighter. She's very strong. And one thing of note here is that the takedowns that Valentina was getting were body lock takedowns and trip takedowns. And that's the exact type of takedown that Erin Blanchfield likes. Erin Blanchfield doesn't go to the single or double leg as much as she goes for the body locks and trips. She will transition to single and double. She did it to JJ Aldridge a couple times, couldn't get it done. But she loves the body lock and trips. So it'll be interesting to see whether she is able to get those body locks and trips against Jessica Andrade, because she didn't look that physical in the Aldridge fight. There was a couple of times where she had body lock clinch and she couldn't take her down. But then you go back to the Miranda Maverick fight for Blanchfield and she completely dominated her with trip takedowns. I think almost every single one of her takedowns were trip takedowns from the body lock, right? So she completely dominated her there. She looked so much more physical than Maverick. And then in the Aldridge fight, she didn't look as physical as Aldridge, which is strange because I feel like Maverick is a more physical fighter. So it's a very interesting dynamic here. If Jessica Andrade is able to keep this fight on the feet, I think she's going to knock Erin Blanchfield out. I honestly do. So when they get in there, for me, it's a massive question mark whether Erin Blanchfield is going to be able to get the takedowns. I don't think we've seen enough from her to confirm that she will. But I also don't think we've seen enough from her to confirm that she won't. So in my opinion, it's a massive question mark and you can't be confident either way. From what I can see on tape when I do my tape study, I can't be confident either way. Because like I've said, I haven't seen Jessica Andrade dominated in the grappling, except for Valentina Shevchenko, in her whole career. I mean, I know it said that she, Tisha Torres took her down twice, but I watched that fight. Tisha Torres didn't take her down once. So UFC stats is completely wrong there. Torres did not get one takedown at all. I watched the whole 15-minute fight and she didn't get a takedown. It said she got 2 takedowns in the second round, and I rewatched the second round and she did not get a takedown. I think they was classing it off when Torres jumped on the back and Jessica Andrade reversed the position or something. So if Erin Blanchfield does dominate Jessica Andrade, if she does get her down, she's going to be the only second fighter to ever do that, right? So for me, guys, it's not a concrete breakdown here. Last time I did a main event breakdown, it was Alexander Volkanovski against Islam Makhachev, and I told you unequivocally that Alexander Volkanovski is the clear money line side here. I said Alexander Volkanovski was a great bet. I said, gun to my head, I do predict Islam to win the fight, but I think Alex is going to make it close. I think Alex is going to crack Islam, and I think Alex is a great bet at plus 300, right? So I was very strong in my breakdown, right? Very strong in my opinion. On this fight, I'm not strong at all, right? I can only give you some information around the fights that I've already seen and some information about the fighters and my thoughts of what might happen in the cage. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you that my opinion is super strong in this one because it isn't. I do lean on the side that Erin Blanchfield is actually going to shock some people here and that she will get some takedowns. This is a 5-round fight, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just double check that now. Yeah, it's a 5-round fight. So it's going to be really interesting because if Erin Blanchfield is still alive in the 3rd and 4th rounds, I do think that the reason for that is because she is able to get takedowns. I don't think she's as tough as Lauren Murphy on the feet. I don't think she's just going to take 200 strikes like Lauren Murphy did against Jessica in her last fight and survive. So if the fight does go later, I think it definitely favors Erin Blanchfield because I think that Erin was, she's able to get takedowns if the fight's going later. I also think Erin can finish on the ground. I also think Jessica can finish on the feet as well. So I wouldn't mind some form of under in this spot. But then when you look at the unders, they're fairly juiced and nothing is really appealing. I mean, minus 200 if a fight doesn't go to decision, it's not a good bet in my opinion because there is a world in which, Jessica's super tough and we don't really know much about Erin Blanchfield's toughness, right? So you're kind of just guessing that Erin Blanchfield's not going to be tough if your play doesn't go to decision and then Jessica gets the finish. Or you're all saying that Erin Blanchfield is so dominant on top that she is going to get a finish. So it's kind of hard for me to lay minus 200 there. If anything, I'd just rather go for under 3.5 at minus 150. But I think the bookies are good there. I think the bookies are accurate there. I wouldn't go for it. In my opinion, from what I know, from how inconclusive I am on my opinion, this is a 50-50 fight for me. So Erin Blanchfield being plus 150, I do think there is some value on there because if I'm calling it a 50-50 fight, it should be plus 100 even a piece. The bookies will make it minus 110 with their VIG. So I do think that Erin Blanchfield holds some value in this spot. And I'm going to say Erin Blanchfield gets the win, gets the upset win. She shocks a lot of people here. But I'm interested to see how this line goes, because I do think there'll be some money coming in on both fighters. I'm interested to see how the over and unders go, and then I'll make my decision. I haven't made any decision on what bet I'm going to make at the moment, but we'll see. But at the moment, I'm going to take Erin Blanchfield for the win. But I do think it's a very close fight just because the unknowns are so huge that it's very hard for anyone to make a concrete prediction on this fight. So that's it, guys. That's my breakdown for today. I don't really like this card in general. My thoughts on the card are that it's not very good. But I do have some spots that I really like, and I will be locking those in today. If you want to sign up with me and get all of my bets, we've been smashing it for 4 years. We've got over 340 units in profit over the last 4 years, 12% ROI over that time as well. So one of the best MMA handicap syndicates in the entire world. If you wanted to sign up and get all of my predictions, picks, all of that, you can just follow me on social media. I do post there all the time. LucrativeMMABetting.com is where you should go. But that's it, guys. Without further ado, I'll leave you till the next video. I'm taking Erin Blanchfield for the win. Good luck on your bets.